Democrats continue to push for abortion on demand at the federal level. The House of Representatives have voted to advance a massive spending bill that includes the Hyde Amendment, but still raises some pro-life concerns. Meanwhile, in the states, Colorado and Maryland moved to enshrine abortion on demand, while constituents in the progressive city of Alexandria, Virginia, defeat a pro-abortion measure to, quote, honor abortion providers. And joining me now in studio to break all of this down is Jamie Dangers, Legislative Director at Susan B. Anthony List. Jamie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Let's get started with the spending bill. It does include the Hyde Amendment, but there are certain pro-life members of Congress saying that there are still issues with the bill. Can you explain what those are?
Yes, the Omnibus package, which is all of the federal funding bills put into one, is always a mixed bag. There's going to be some good, some bad, some in between. But I think it's important to step back and look at the full picture, because truly a crisis was averted. We had pro-abortion members of Congress who campaigned on stripping the Hyde Amendment and the other pro-life protections in federal funding bills. And their bills that they originally passed through the House actually did that. They removed the Hyde Amendment and all the similar restrictions. They removed conscience protections. They put in Planned Parenthood earmarks. There was all kinds of increased funding for problematic funding streams like Title X, which is no longer protected by Trump-era rules. And so we at Susan B. Anthony List partnered with pro-life groups and members of Congress for months of sustained efforts to ensure that those things would not make it into the final package. So while, yes, there is always room for improvement, we are just astounded at the fact that all of the restrictions were still in law, even while we're in the minority in the House and the Senate and under a hostile administration. And the problematic funding streams were not plus up to as they were originally in the House.
Thank you for explaining that. And I want to shift to the states for the rest of our discussion. I understand Maryland is on the verge of enshrining abortion in their constitution. Colorado is about to pass a law that's worse than Roe versus Wade. So I want to ask you, if Roe versus Wade is overturned, what's it going to take to change the culture in states like this?
It is really tragic to see what's happening in Colorado, where I came from, and in neighboring Maryland right here. There's a lot of fear-mongering going on with the pro-abortion lobby because Roe is seen as under threat right now as we wait for the Supreme Court ruling in Dobbs. They're really rallying pro-abortion states to do all they can to double down on abortion access. And what's simultaneously encouraging is to see pro-lifers in those states rallying to try to fight against these terrible things. Those laws, those amendments are so extreme and so far outside of what most Americans believe. More than 2/3 of Americans want restrictions on abortion. And in Colorado, we saw the longest sustained filibuster by the House Republicans in state history to try to stop this bill.
Wow.
So I think these debates, and you know, while what's happening is terrible, the debates are starting to wake people up to what is at stake and what these things really mean.
And shifting to Virginia, the people of Alexandria, where I happen to be from, they just defeated a measure that would have forced Alexandrians to observe a day honoring abortion providers. Can you tell us what you know about this and who was behind putting a stop to it?
This was another crisis averted, I think you could say, and an example of when the church rises up, because it is unconscionable to think of a day honoring those whose job it is to take unborn life. We should be celebrating true heroes, the moms that are keeping their babies in these really difficult situations. They are the heroes. And it was amazing to see, especially the Arlington Diocese and other pro-life organizations and individuals in the Alexandria, Arlington, Nova area rise up and say, we will not stand for this. And eventually it was pulled in what I think is a victory for the church.
Yes, yeah, I could not agree more. And I briefly want to get your thoughts on West Virginia's new bill that was just passed in the House of Delegates, the Unborn Child with Down Syndrome Protection and Education Act. Can you tell us about this?
This is very exciting for me personally. I have a sister who has Down syndrome, and these laws are always so exciting. Again, it's one of those ideas, it's just hard to imagine the targeting of a particular class of people because of the number of chromosomes they have. In West Virginia, this was quite a fight. The debate was very rigorous and really a victory to ensure that little ones with Down syndrome, with that extra chromosome, are not targeted for discriminatory abortions. People with Down syndrome have happy lives, and their lives are no less valuable because they have a different number of chromosomes than you or I have.
Yes.
So I think it's really important. These laws help to teach that humans are valuable because they are human and not because of what their potential is or their chromosomes or what they can contribute to society.
Yes.
They are valuable, and this was a huge victory in a very pro-life state in West Virginia.
Could not agree with you more. Thank you so much for keeping a pulse on all of this. Jamie Dangers of the Susan B. Anthony List.
Thanks, Prudence.